John Lennon formed a musical partnership that led to some of the best music in pop history. The relationship lasted 23 years, from 1957 until Lennon's death in 1980. They changed the culture of the world, but what was the relationship really like? Writer Ian Leslie explores the partnership in his book, John and Paul, A Love Story in Songs. Ian, good morning. Nice to have you with us.
Good morning. Great to be here.
So when I heard that there was a book about the relationship between John and Paul, I said, what could possibly be written that we didn't know so far? And then I read more about you. You are really more a journalist and author about human psychology than rock and roll. So I thought, well, maybe you're taking a kind of a different approach to examining these two guys. What did you learn, and what do you think that's new that we had never heard about these guys before?
That's exactly right. It struck me that we haven't really investigated the richness and the depth of the relationship between these two extraordinary young men. And I don't think you can understand the Beatles or the Beatles' music or what happened here unless you look at the chemistry between John Lennon and Paul McCartney. And the more you look at it, the more fascinating it gets. These two guys, they meet, essentially they fall in love. I'm not suggesting they had a sexual or romantic relationship in that sense, but in every other sense, they had this very intense connection. And out of that intense connection comes this incredible explosion of creativity. So I thought we need a book that tells the story of the music and of the Beatles and of the phenomenon from that perspective. Start with these two guys and try and understand what happened there.
Was it their common growing up together, their early roots as young boys, really, starting off, that was the genesis of that chemistry?
Yes, definitely. That's absolutely crucial that they get close to each other and become friends at the same time as they fall in love with rock and roll and music and making music. And those two things become inextricably interlinked, right? The friendship and the music. They bond together, not just over the music, but over the fact that they both suffered horrible bereavements. They both lose their mothers, right, around the same time. And they don't necessarily talk about that much, but it becomes this thing that, we two understand each other. We communicate on a different level to the other kids. And that intensity that they form as teenagers goes all the way through the story of the group and beyond. And I just think this is kind of a remarkable story of a loving, complicated, complex, difficult at times, but always kind of intimate and affectionate relationship.
Unusual for a duo that they both wrote music and lyrics. Not one did one, the other did one. But it's interesting that they made it. Lennon and McCartney were the songs they wrote together, and George Harrison contributed on a couple of these. And was he just frozen out?
Well, it's a great question, and a great point about the fact that they're both writing words, both writing music. This very unusual kind of songwriting partnership. There weren't really any models for the kind of partnership that John and Paul had. They really kind of invented their own way to do this. And yes, to a certain extent, it meant that George got kind of pushed to the sidelines of the group. They could have chosen to incorporate him. It could have been Lennon, McCartney, Harrison songs, but they chose to keep it just the two of them because that was the most important relationship that each of them had in their lives, really, was to each other. Now, George responded to this, of course, by doing his own thing and bringing it into the group. So he brings Indian music into the group. He gets better at songwriting. He starts hanging out with Dylan. And then by the end of the 60s, he's coming back with these incredible songs. Here Comes the Sun and Something and others. So he kind of makes it. But those two are really the kind of driving force of the group throughout its rise.
And post-Beatles, it seemed to me that the McCartney's career was far more successful. How did that impact the rivalry, if that's the right word? But how did Lennon deal with the fact that McCartney just seemed to get a lot more attention with his solo career?
Yeah, it's a great question. And it's true. McCartney and Wings, once they got over a tricky start, by the mid 70s, they were huge, really, really commercially successful and playing huge stadiums across America and the world. And John did find that hard to handle. John was naturally quite an insecure person anyway, and he worried throughout the 70s, that Paul's doing incredibly well, and what am I doing? And I think it actually stopped him. He basically stops making music for a few years in the 70s, and I think part of the reason was he just didn't want to have to compete with Paul because he didn't think he could win that battle. It's only at the end of the 70s John gets his confidence back, partly after hearing a song by Paul on the radio that kind of galvanizes him into action, and he goes back to the studio and makes what became his last album, Double Fantasy.
The book is called John and Paul, A Love Story in Songs. And you can find Ian at his site and all the socials we've got up on the screen. Ian Leslie, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, guys.